Oh, here comes Ichiro running down the hill here at the Ohaka cemetery. We came up to clean the grave and light some incense for his great-grandfather Ichiro and great-grandmother Tomiko-san. And of course, he's got his Stanley flask and a sword. And he ate the last mango in Paris. But we missed the plane to Saigon. I took a slow boat to China. But Ichiro, there's still so much to be done. I maybe have been going on about it a little bit, but this recording project I did with Winterkeep, thinking about not thinking, yet so much life. And I keep on, well, you know, as a correspondent said, I know you're not a channel clicking news watcher, but unless you're an ostrich with a head in the sand, you know there's fireworks going on throughout so many lands. Hey, Joe. You're gonna go up there? Oh yeah? Okay, be careful, okay? Hi, いってらっしゃい. And I am, though I'm familiar with the Balfour Proclamation, declarations in the Sykes-Picot, and have gone down the rabbit holes of all kinds, it's until you see the wreckage and the outcomes. Sometimes the things that don't happen right away, the fireworks in the sky, the blasts, and the simultaneous launching of weapons that would fund a community for years to come. The way this connects is one of the songs, one of the compositions on the EP, which would be great as a 10-inch pressing. It's called Between Night and Light. And in these collaborations with Winterkeep in New Zealand, he goes through my archive and just digs things out. I don't dare to try to say this or that or the other thing because I'd go, there's so many, how do I? But anyway, he found these things and then he remixes them and throws them back and I say, when is it that I wrote that? When is it that I recorded that? Where does that come from? And I realized that one was about borders, arbitrary and false, because as we humans came from untold tens of thousands of years ago and rambled widely in clans and bands and tribes and civilizations and communities of all kinds. There were no borders. Even passports are a recent construct, right? But yet we glom together as though we're different than the other peoples. And it was when I was in Palau, in Micronesian islands, that somehow get glommed together with other Micronesian islands, despite them being thousands of kilometers apart. And I saw the rusty tanks and blockaded tunnels left over from what Japan would call the Pacific War. But I think about, and I landed on a tiny plane from an island that you could see, but the channels, it's outside of the reef, so the channel is so harsh that to try to get a boat between them would be quite challenging. So you hop a little plane, you take off at the runway, and it drops off a cliff. Instead of launching like this, you drop down. Yeah, sure. Oh, you found a rubber band. And you can see the next island that you're going to, but you land on this runway that was built using indentured servants, occupied, conquered peoples. And somehow I go, what? How are they there in the first place? And it was the end of World War, what's now called World War I, and the Great War. Like, who cares about the names, right? They're all just, wars are all tyrannies of oppressions in one name or another. Don't at me. Japan ended up with a German occupied territory of Palau. And the thought of Germans with proper dress and black leather gloves in Palau going, papers please, as they're dredging canals and doing German things. And then Japan ended up with there, and there's still like torii gates and cemeteries, and then it was a US and a UN trust territory under the auspices of whatever, and now it's becoming a refuge for alternative currencies or whatever. But seeing those rusty tanks and the vines growing around them, oh, we got snacks time? You realize that what happens after the war that goes on for decades and centuries afterwards, and in the case of some areas of conflict now where borders were drawn after wars using deceit and hubris. And then in more modern times, even in my lifetime, governments toppled, sent into exile, Shahs who carried a lineage back to Cyrus the Great, because everyone calls themselves the Great. Others exiled in France, while this one goes to Egypt and then to the US, and that one goes from France to the country formerly known as Persia. And I remember I was at the community college when the former clerical head of that republic being passed around a crowd, wrapped up in his shroud, and it was a shocking sight to see, right? Between night and light, these liminal spaces where all this change happens and it's enforced upon people. Now, it's not my place to say what's to be done, but I do know that innocents are suffering, perishing under bombs. It breaks my battered, weary heart. Or being scared of the fireworks going on above their house, which are not fireworks. They are bombs being interseeded with other bombs, and debris falling down and plaster falling off the walls. It might not seem like a big deal. And then you read the articles, thousands stranded at airports. Oh. We were on our vacation to Indonesia, now we can't fly through there and there. I'm so sorry to hear that. I understand the inconvenience of inconvenience, but what I understand even more is a life being destroyed because everything around is just toppled into oblivion. You say, just run, 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 and run, and run, and run, and run. So this grandfather who's interred right behind me, he was the Morse code operator here in Tsuchida, Okayama during World War II. And we're right in between Hiroshima and Osaka and Kyoto and all those places. So my goodness, I think about everything he was tapping out with his fingers. And no, I don't have access to any of his equipment, which would be... although we have his accordion. Maybe the accordion was really the secret tool. So Okayama was leveled with bombs. Keeping in mind this was purely a civilian target. There's no military bases there. They said there's some manufacturing things. Yep, take out those ball bearings and everything will be all right. This is not to support in any way the militarism of any country, by the way. June of 45, Okayama was leveled 3 in the morning, 300 bombers flying at 3,000 feet. Oh, thanks. Dropping, I don't know. You can see the bomb radius still, just based on the construction. We're far enough out here. We're eating our rice crackers. There's old homes. There's rice fields. And then in August, of course, Hiroshima suffered the great indignity of human history, which connects now to the current situation where it's ostensibly about, oh my gosh, enriched uranium, oh my gosh. Side note, oil. Oh, now my car's going to be more expensive to fill with petrol because of... Meanwhile, there's always money for more of it. What's the end game for any of it? On either side. On any of the sides. What are you trying to accomplish? That country, this country, this country. I'm trying delicately not to name names. But all I think is those rusty tanks with the vines tangled around them, and decades go by, and people have grown up without memories of their grandparents. They've had to reinvent their lives. They've had to exile to the countryside. You know, there's still elders here, of course, that were children, and they were retreated to the mountainous areas. And they remember the privations of the post-war years, and of course atoning for the sins. I saw someone the other day saying Japan still hasn't atoned for its sins of the war. Like, has anyone? How does one atone for decisions of a few, most of whom the key players were executed afterwards by an international tribunal? But that's neither here nor there. What we're in now is the present tense. So while me and my favorite little human in the entire world are eating rice crackers amongst generations, because it's not just these grandparents, there's a whole line of ancestors right here around us. I think of friends in the region currently in conflict, and I think of my friends that were so kind to me in Jordan and Oman and the Emirates. And I think of all of my Iranian, Persian friends in the Vancouver area. And I think of all the kindness of the people I've met around the world. And somehow it all comes down to warmongering asshats who go in with some pretense because of religion, use weapons to stop weapons. It doesn't work like that. Think of Rick Steves, European travel geek, going around Iran, being welcomed with open arms. And I think of people going, well, they say death to America all the time. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like this, just like, anyway, I didn't mean to say all this. Between night and light, the bats and the fire bombing from the sky, borders drawn on unfaded maps by someone else, arbitrary and false. We learn in geography class and social studies at school, which I always got an A+. This is the way the world map looks, and I'm only halfway through my life, and I've seen these borders radically and fundamentally change. And what doesn't change is the kindness of most of the people that you meet. And what also doesn't change is the hubris of the people who have access to the weapons and glom on to power for rare earth minerals and enriched uranium or just your basic old petrol. And certainly this country that's currently in the midst of this conflict is right there, and they've gone through upheavals and overthrows led by the same people who are back in there because of petrochemicals and oil. Well, those are the same thing, but so ride your bike, or in my case, ride a bus, put solar panels on your house, grow a garden, and think of other ways to go about your day. But my heart breaks for all the people who are the unwitting victims, capital V, victims of these terrible mistakes, who call out for unconditional surrender, and this is very important because of the... Haven't we heard this before? Weapons of mass destruction. We've heard all this before. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Masters of war, you're not my master. And time will change all of this as the tanks rust in the jungle with their vines intertwined. 秘密のところ? どこ? 遠い? Okay, we're going to a secret spot. Okay, bye. Peace.